Welcome to Power Up Your Practice. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, a law firm owner and law practice management consultant, author, podcaster, and adjunct professor. Each week, I'm so excited to invite other guests on to be able to learn from the inspiring minds and share practical tips so that we can all work smarter, serve our clients even better, and grow our firm. But after all, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. So let's power up together and continue to create the law firm and the life you deserve.
One of the things that we've really loved over the last couple of years as we've created more of our AI offerings is this ability to start to lean on the single pane of glass to have the complete data picture accessible to everything that we're doing.
Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Ruby Powers with Power Up Your Practice, and we are constantly going through the ever-evolving landscape of law practice management, and I am here in Salt Lake City, Utah at the Filevine's LEX Summit, and I'm really excited to have my guest here, Alex McLaughlin, who is the Vice President of Product at Filevine.
Thanks, Ruby. Super excited to be here talking today.
Yeah, I know you're a really busy guy, and we were able to catch you, so thanks so much. For those listening, what is Vice President of Product? What do you do?
Yeah, so I oversee the product development from kind of the user problem perspective, and then ensuring that what we build actually solves those user problems. So I'm not, hands on keyboard creating the code, but helping guide our engineers for the next thing to build, the right thing to build, the way to build it, and then getting it out to our customers. So I spend most of my time in our AI and deposition software space at this point.
Awesome. So you're like listening to a lot of us Filevine users and what we're saying, like, it'd be cool if you did this, or it'd be really great if you could have a program like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the majority of a good product employee's job is to spend as much time as they can talking to customers, understanding the pain and problems that come with our user base. So understanding not just the pain with our software, but the problems that you struggle with as an attorney or as a paralegal or legal assistant, and where we can build software to help solve those problems.
And just before we started recording, I realized that this place is packed with a lot of people at Basecamp. Even before the session, I was at Basecamp with one of my team members from my office, and it seems like it seems bigger than last year. I don't know about numbers there.
I don't know the exact numbers, but we're definitely got a larger crowd than last year, and Basecamp especially. I've never seen a registration line like that in the 5 years of different Lexes that I've been to. So just the hallways are filled. It's been a lot of fun, and the energy's been terrific so far.
Yeah, there's a lot of learning going on. So there was something in the news just last week, a lot of excitement for Filevine. Do you want to share?
Yeah, so we announced a new funding round. We raised $400 million, wow. And that is really to continue to grow our footprint in the legal operating space, so the intelligence system that goes along with that. So we're all very, very excited about it. Really, really fun and exciting time to be here.
Wow, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of changes, movement, improvements, a lot of exciting things coming in the future.
Yeah, the money is really to reinvest back into the product, into the engineering team, and to help continue to grow the company and grow the product and continue to be a leader in the market.
Awesome. So I've heard you talk a lot about the single pane of glass. For those in legal tech, for those who maybe never heard that expression or before, what does that mean?
Yeah, so Filevine's vision for the industry is to have what we call a single pane of glass, and that is one place to go to do everything to run your practice. You shouldn't be jumping between disparate systems that are maybe integrated, maybe not, figuring out, okay, our intake numbers are this from this place, our active docket is X from a different system, or even from a workflow perspective. You don't want your staff wasting their time figuring out what file is where the case numbers match. There was, for everybody who wants to think back, 5 or 6 years to COVID times, mm-hmm. Everybody created a SaaS application. Like, that was the thing to do in 2020. Money was easy to get and easy to raise. And so everybody out there created these point solutions to go and solve a very specific problem, which is great until you end up as a business with 15 or 20 point solutions. And then all of a sudden your users are going, wait, I have to learn how to use 15 different programs. I have to know how to refer to the same thing in 15 different systems taxonomy. And it was just brutal. And so that's why we've even kind of doubled down on it since then to say, no, we're going to have a single system where you can go to get whatever you need from your practice.
I was teaching my tech session on my law class, the law practice management, not too long ago, and I was mentioning, it's sort of like when they had the Sky Mall magazine, and there was they were selling like a hot dog burn, warmer, or like this thing that would just do one little thing, and you're like, I don't need my counter to have like 20 different like devices that can do just one thing. That's why I like the Instapot, for example. Speaking about the pandemic, it reminded me.
Yeah, no, that's a great equivalency for it. It really was this cool. That thing is great, and it's nice to have, and it solves that one problem really well. But I don't need to have an appliance to do everything. I don't need to have an app for every individual thing. I don't want to have a separate app to do every individual thing. I want to have one place to go, and it reduces context shifting for employees. It reduces the friction to get analytics to run a practice. It helps in so many different ways across the spectrum. And it's why we really do continue to just drive down this path of the single pane of glass.
And I think where a lot of law firm owners are at when I consult with them is that like they've been sort of duct taping a lot of programs together and hoping, fingers crossed, it's all going to work. But like even just like the fields and how you label certain name, first name, last name. I mean, it might not make it to the same place, even if you zap or try to integrate or open API, whatever. And I think when some firms are thinking about this, they're like, well, where do I even start? It's like it's all sort of holding together with a thread type of thing. I really think having your case management software as your anchor and then working backwards is usually a good way, especially if someone's transitioning from one place to being more in that single pane of glass.
Yeah, absolutely. And we often talk about a digital transformation for customers when they move from a legacy system to a new case management system. And it's not just, we're going to move to a new software. It's, okay, how can we take the time as we're doing this to make our processes, make everything better, faster, more efficient, and actually make the data start to work for us? We don't, we had needles for 20 years. We kept putting the same data in the same field because the field was there in needles. Turns out nobody cared about it. Nobody used it. It was busy work for your team. So rethink what's actually important to your firm and re-anchor on how to actually drive the practice forward.
And I think there is, like you said, there's a lot of data in lots of places when it's not the single pane of glass, and it's just harder to realize what is there and sort of those patterns.
Yeah, it's hard for a human, and I mean, really, it's even more difficult when you start to look at AI tools sitting on top of the data. If you have data in different systems, how can I be sure that whatever AI tool that I'm using actually is giving me accurate information without the whole picture? So if I have my client communications in one system, but my documents in another, and I want to know what's going on in this case, or I want to know, what's the timeline of events, an AI tool will never be able to do that unless those things are in the same system. Otherwise, you're going to have gaps in one or the other. There's going to be timelines that come from documents, timelines that come from your client communications and your notes that you've made on the case. And unless you're working in that one spot, you're going to have factual inaccuracies. And so, that's one of the things that we've really loved over the last couple of years as we've created more of our AI offerings, is this ability to start to lean on the single pane of glass to have the complete data picture accessible to everything that we're doing.
So AI is such a buzzword. It's everywhere now. It's like, even when I'm helping organize the ABA Tech Show, we're like, let's just stop using AI because it's like it's incorporated in everything, it seems like now. But yeah, it's definitely what we're all thinking about everywhere we go. But how do you see AI reshaping the practice of law in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, it's a really exciting time, both to be on this side of legal tech and on the consumer side of legal technology for AI. There's things that are, we're thinking about that I don't think people necessarily have realized are problems until you kind of peel back the curtain and go, wait, we're spending how much time doing this or how much time doing this? And so really, it's going to be about driving efficiencies but more importantly, improving case results. And so it shouldn't necessarily be looked at as like, we won't need as many hours spent here or as many people doing something. It's now with the same information, but with better tech, we can provide better outcomes to our clients. So this idea of, one of my favorite examples of this is any attorney who's worked on a case, they get deeply invested in it, they research it, they know the case facts inside and out, but they're building a strategy and a theory in their head as they're uncovering this information. And they, by accident, begin to create bias in their own mind. And they look at the case through their lens, and then the other side is doing the same thing. And it's very easy to overlook how a piece of evidence might be interpreted by a jury if you're always viewing it through your plaintiff's attorney or your defense attorney lens and not coming at it fresh. So, it's why attorneys will go and consult a co-counsel or run a focus group. But now you don't need to do that necessarily. You can use an AI tool that you can ask the same questions you would ask of a focus group or of a trusted co-counsel, that it will come at it with an unbiased approach, not knowing your strategy about the case, but just, okay, this is everything I've been trained on, here's the data, how would you interpret it? And that's really where I think attorneys, especially litigators, will be able to see more and more value in the AI space of this unbiased approach to data analysis and being able to help them surface information, understand information, and see the whole picture of their case.
And what's one of the tools that you're referring to that you would use for that?
Yeah, so in Filevine, we have a tool that we call Chat with Your Case. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's not a clever marketing name necessarily, but there's no
Straight
ambiguity of what it does. And it's a conversational AI tool that has the full picture of your case. So, we talk about this single pane of glass, your documents, your notes, your client communications, your calendar entries, all of your custom fields, your faxes that come in. It always makes me laugh when I think about faxes when I'm talking about an AI feature, but our AI features are ingesting fax data that has been sent into the project. And the Chat with Your Case can look at anything that's in that project, and you can ask questions of it. Help me prepare for this deposition of the expert witness. Look at the expert report and their deposition and tell me if there's inconsistencies. Are there, we've got all the nursing home documents. Is there anything in their documentation that points to a staffing reduction that would have impacted the patient's care? And these are things that, you might know as an attorney or might have an idea of, but it's a way to say, okay, let's have it look at everything in the case, things that maybe one of my team members put in that I didn't even know was there, and be able to get these answers with a full picture of the case profile.
It's reminding me of way back in the day when there was document review, and it just would have one viewpoint, but you're saying the AI can just review everything all together.
Yeah, it pulls it all in. There's not to go too deep and technical into it, but there's a theory in AI, or not a theory, but a practice in AI called RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. So we take every piece of data that comes into Filevine and we store it in this format called a vector format. So basically a numerical representation of a word. And these projects, you get into a complex lawsuit, you're going to have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of pages of data points in that case, depending on the nature of the case. And the way that retrieval augmented generation works is it can go and take your question, and it understands the type of things that are pertinent to it, and it can go pull back those artifacts and then just to let you have the conversation with the data that's matching to that query. And so you can have these questions that span huge data sets, but finding that needle in the haystack very quickly.
The other thing you were mentioning about not having that bias as new data comes in, but I'm also thinking about from a perspective of I'm the owner of my law firm, but some of my team members have only been on with a couple of years, and I practice immigration, not PI, like a lot of people here, but well, not only do I joke, I wish I had a refresh button because it's constantly changing in immigration, but it sort of seems like AI tools can almost create a refresh button and sort of re-strategizing.
Yeah, it's a great point. And it's something that I always like to bring up too, is our AI tools, especially Chat with Your Case, is fully practice area agnostic. So, if you're looking at an immigration case, you can ask it about what recent filings there were, what was in the filings. All of these models understand the various immigration forms that are out there. So you can even ask it, based on the filing that I have in form XYZ, are there any risks or anything that I need to worry about, or is there more that I should ask for my client? And so for you, even as an experienced immigration attorney, it can help. But yeah, as a new attorney or a junior immigration attorney, being able to have that spot checking you and fact checking you is so incredibly valuable. It doesn't replace you by any stretch, but it's there to make you a better attorney and to help prevent the mistakes that might happen from a junior attorney.
And the other thing I could see being really beneficial is just when someone's getting onboarded, taking over a case in the firm or something, and trying to understand what's going on with it and getting like a good summary or being able to ask like some questions instead of having to ask the primary attorney a lot of things that are probably somewhere dug deep in the file.
Yeah,
or hopefully the notes somewhere.
Absolutely. It's there's a whole other kind of problem in the world of thought work and legal work especially, but anybody who's in thought work, of context switching. And it takes, there's studies about it, it takes anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes for a human's brain to be able to deeply engage to do focused work. But it only takes a single interruption to think about something else, and it breaks that cycle, and you have to then get another 5 to 15 minutes to get back to where you were. And so you think about a junior attorney needing to ask a question. They fire off an email to the partner who's on the case. That partner's in the middle of something important. Now the junior attorney has basically lobbed this, or cast a fishing hook out of saying, I don't, I'm not going to do much of the work. I just need you to tell me what's going on with this thing. And it breaks the cycle of work for someone who's, doing probably more important work than they are. Now that person can just chat with your case or ask an AI tool the question they were originally going to ask. It saves the context switching from the senior partner. It also probably makes the junior attorney look a little bit better if they don't have to go and ask someone what's going on, if they can just immediately get up to speed.
This episode is sponsored by Candle AI, the legal email assistant that helps legal teams spend less time on client emails. You heard me right, spending less time on emails. Candle AI works with both Gmail and Outlook, so you don't have to learn a new tool. And then it connects with popular case management systems like Clio, Filevine, INSum, and more to come. It instantly shows you your case and the client details the moment you open a client email and right inside your inbox. And then that means less context switching and time spent jumping to different tabs to figure out what you need to respond. Candle can also draft context-aware responses to client emails and makes it easy to create, edit, and manage your email templates. If you want to save time and take back control of your inbox, check out Candle AI. I highly suggest it.
Yeah. Did you read Deep Work is it Cal Newport? I think that's.
Yeah, there's the Cal Newport. There's two of them by him, Deep Work and then A World Without Email.
Oh, okay.
And
I would like that world.
Yeah, everyone would. Email is.
I mean, no offense, you can email me. It's okay.
No, email's the worst method of communication. It's so easy. What's going on with this case? Well, I've got to figure out, okay, what does Ruby know about the case? What was the last thing that I asked Ruby about this case? Like, I don't have to do any work. It's putting it all onto the recipient, and it's a terrible form of communication.
That first book, the Deep Work one, helped me write one of my first books because it just helped teach me how to stay focused. But I could see what the whole single pane of glass concept of, like, if you're switching from less programs and you can have more of that you can go to one place and everything is there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a dream.
Think back to disparate systems. So say you're working for a family law firm and you need to come into work. You fire up your email to figure out what the next thing you do is, or what your task system, and figure out what the next thing to do is. Cool. I need to write a motion to compel. I've got to go and figure out what the last thing that was done in the case. So I go from my email to my case management system. Cool, I know what I need to do. Now I open a document management system to go and get my template. I have to go back to my not even my case management. I have to go to my time and billing software to start my billing timer to make sure I have my hours. I go back to my document. I reference something in case management. I finally save it. Then I've got to email it. Then I've got to save it in the system of record. Then I've got to file it. Then I go back to my email and start the whole process over again. And the likelihood of, like, your brain misfiring in one of those steps, or hitting a moment of context switching, of like, oh, I was back in my email and someone just fired off this stupid question that also needs to be answered. It really does all tie together to try to keep people focused in creating good, solid work product with less burnout, less frustration, and just more job satisfaction.
Because all that switch tasking creates a lot of burnout, and we're already getting burned out from the practice areas. And being in the practice of law in general.
I don't know if the numbers are out this year, but last year the NPS, and it hurts your client satisfaction. Like last year, the NPS, Net Promoter Score for attorneys, was lower than most airlines. It's pretty hard
just was at the Case Status Client Experience Summit, and some of the numbers about how, like, only 7% of lawyers actually ask for the NPS.
Yeah.
I'm not shocked by that, but like 66% of, like, Fortune 500 do it,
You don't need to ask if you already know the answer.
But I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, but we're working on it. We're striving on it. And I mean, one of the things I saw in the base camp was about, the ones that we're trying to prevent. Like, where do lawyers get in trouble? It's like not responding or not answering. I forgot the other one. It's basically all related about communication. And we're trying to improve that. And actually, what the other thing about the report, I was reading it last night, was the faster we respond to the client, the higher the NPS. And so I think a lot of times we say, oh, you have to respond in 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever. But how long does it really take us, or your team to do it? And I think part of the reason why it takes longer is because the data takes a while to figure it all out. And you're like, I don't know. Let me go read your entire file and try to figure out how to answer this one little, it looks like a small question, but there's so much at stake if you give the wrong answer.
Yeah, it's challenging. You want to make sure that you're giving them the right information because they're, depending on what situation it is, but usually a person's not in a great personal space when they're having to work with an attorney. It's nothing about the profession, but a personal injury attorney is usually seeing someone at their lowest moment. An immigration attorney is seeing someone trying really hard to do things the right way to solve a problem that they have. Family law attorney is dealing with someone who's, maybe their marriage or a problem with their children. And so they are anxiously awaiting that answer from you. It might be a really simple thing that to you that they're asking, but for them it's peace of mind. It's going to help them sleep better at night. And so you want to give them information that's accurate, that helps them. And you don't want to go, oh, actually, sorry, I gave you bad information yesterday. This is actually the right answer now that I had time to look at your file.
Yeah, that makes me cringe because that's so much responsibility as lawyer. You're right. No, so true. So I was at a tech summit earlier and I heard this concept called like structured and unstructured data. And I know we were talking about that earlier. So what does that mean and how does that reconcile with this whole single pane of glass approach?
Yeah, so there's a couple of pieces to that. So the idea of structured versus unstructured data. Think of, for unstructured data, that's basically any document that comes to you. When you pull the text out of it, you're creating unstructured data. So say I'm looking at an immigration form. OCR typically is going to extract that text, but it doesn't retain the structure of the document. It doesn't know what a heading is. It doesn't know what a checkbox is. And so it's very, very difficult to be able to give you accurate information because it might say, there's a heading of, saying, has this person done X, Y, or Z? And then there's a sub-question underneath it. And it doesn't know that that's not just one continuous question. There's a million examples out there, but basically anything that's not an Excel spreadsheet or something that's very, very highly structured, for lack of a better term, virtually every document is unstructured data. And when you feed unstructured data into an AI system, it is easy to make mistakes because it's very, very difficult to know exactly what the intent was behind a word. Sometimes it will do a perfectly fine job, but other times it's really a struggle. Structured data is the idea that I can say this data point is related to this thing. So think of filling out a form, a Google sheet or a Google form. You know that I've got a field that's called name. I can expect the data that's matched to that to be the person's name. Whereas I might see a name in a document. That name in the document could be the person filling it out. It could be the person who they're filling it out on behalf of. It could be a guardian. And so you don't necessarily know what that name is. And the more structure you can put around data, the better for anything and everything, from reporting to analytics to artificial intelligence. It's all improved with structured data. The single pane of glass is where you can start to bring structured and unstructured data together. Documents and structured data are stored in the same places. Data is being extracted from documents and being put into structured fields. And so, things like medical treatment or timelines of events or even line items from an invoice that you got back from your insurance provider as an insurance defense firm, where they said, no, we're not going to pay for X, Y, or Z, these line items. Extracting those and turning them into structured data creates this richer, more robust data set that's good for users, good for AI. It's just good for data hygiene in general.
And for those who didn't know what OCR is, what's that?
Yeah, OCR is optical character recognition. It's been around for quite a while. It's the idea of taking an image-based document, so that's any document that is not originally text. So any scanned document, image, scanned PDF, those all have to go through an OCR system, which will use mathematics and some programming to understand, okay, because I'm seeing this on the page, that's this letter. And so it's been around for a long time. It's getting better and better, but there's still gaps to it. And now we thankfully have this world of multimodal AI tooling. And that's the idea of I don't just feed text to a large language model. I can actually feed images to it. And it can understand, okay, it's a picture of a car, but it can also see that, oh, there's text on the car and it's a Honda or whatever it is. Or you can actually give it a picture of a document that has form fields. And it can go, oh, I can see that there's a form there, and I can see that the first row is a heading row, and the first row on the left-hand side is a numerical column that indicates the location of it. And so you can start to create structure from unstructured data through this method.
And OCR can turn handwritten words into
It can.
Typed.
Some doctors like to challenge that that capability, but it
You would
certainly
think I
can.
would be a doctor according to my handwriting.
There's a reason I type everything that I do. But so OCR can do it. Multimodal OCR through LLMs are it's a significant step above in that ability to do it, because it can take more of the whole picture, whereas it can look at the signature and kind of understand the pen patterns that you may have, whereas traditional OCR is just looking a character at a time, and it doesn't know what was before or after. It just knows, cool, I just got there, that looks like a C. I got there, it looks like an R.
Yeah.
And on and on.
And back to the structured data, isn't there a program called like Sally that's like working on creating, I know some people who've done some work with that. That's sort of like a unified terminology for fields that's trying to work in like the legal.
I haven't heard of that one. I know that there's a company out there called Unstructured that's trying to take unstructured data and turn it into structured data. It takes a lot of work to go through that process because they have to know each specific use case, and it's a little bit challenging. It's something we've been working on quite a bit at Filevine as well, of how we can start to derive structure from that unstructured data.
And we're digesting information from so many different areas. Like in immigration, it could be like not only like birth certificates and all that stuff, but it could be like police reports and articles, and I guess same thing with PI, a lot of medical records and a lot of other things like that.
Every group. I mean, look at a patent attorney. You're going to get schematics and you're going to get CAD files. You're talking to a family law attorney. You're going to get text message logs that are going to have pictures in them. Like it's all over the place, and so it's not a problem with any one practice area. It's just a problem in the world of data, and it's one that we really want to try to solve and improve.
And the crazy thing is, I think we deal with data, but we don't really think about data like a data scientist.
Yeah,
does. Or like how we're talking about it.
There's kind of two worlds of it, of like, oh, I'm just looking at, okay, I'm reading this document and I'm thinking of that as data, but then beginning to actually say, okay, because this data is in this document, it means this. And because that document was in this section or attached to this field or near this field, it actually gives it more meta or context around it. And so really starting to think of the interconnectedness of these data points and not just thinking of them in isolation is really a big kind of movement in the industry.
So we wouldn't be lawyers if we weren't going to ask, like, how does this apply to ethics and compliance? So what are some of the best practices for balancing innovation? Because I think that's really been a lot of people's holdup. When I think about the Rogers innovator curve, a lot of people are in the laggards because they're like, well, what does the bar say about that? What can I do?
Yeah, and thankfully the bar has given perfectly gray guidelines so far.
We know exactly what we're allowed to do.
So, the ethos that we take is it shouldn't be doing the work of a licensed professional. So you shouldn't be asking it legal advice or medical advice. You shouldn't be proffering legal or medical advice. It is a part of your attorney work product, but it's not final product. It should be a rough draft to help get you there. But as the attorney, you're the expert, your name's going on it, you're the one getting sanctioned if there's something wrong in it. So it still deserves review. But we want to, we take an approach a lot of times of trust but verify, of we're going to do the work and we're going to show our work and cite it for you and show you where things came from, so you have trust that it's not just a fabrication that's pulled out of left field. And then one of the big things that I would encourage anybody looking into AI tooling is to take a very close look at security and data privacy. Is your data being used to train a public model? Are you violating HIPAA guidelines by putting a medical record or client information? Are you violating criminal justice guidelines because you've shared information with a model? So make sure that you're using a system that has zero retention, zero training policies with any of their providers, and that they treat your data as if it's never leaving the system. And that's the biggest way to help in that compliance and privacy space, is just ensuring that the data is being treated with the appropriate care. Just plopping a medical record into ChatGPT is going to get you in trouble. Most people don't realize, but that has license. Unless you have a commercial agreement with them, they have license to use that for training if they want to, both the input and the output. And so you're potentially exposing that information to get yourself into trouble.
And I think that reminds me about how important it is to have, firms need to have an AI policy. It shouldn't be bring your own AI to work type of I can do this and I can do that. Mm-hmm. And, no, that also makes me cringe a little bit.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. It's hard. These tools are so easy to get access to. The barrier to entry is very low. And that's why we're trying to make them really good and in this single pane of glass experience. So that way you're not having to pick up your document and take it out of a secure system and put it in an insecure system, that you do the work in the place where it's a safe ecosystem.
And that seems to be a trend that I'm seeing out in the legal tech space, is when a program is provided by for lawyers in a legal setting, it seems like they've done a lot of the vetting and done a lot of the security. You still should check all the fine print, obviously, but they're thinking about these things as opposed to a sort of a non-legal tool set that you're right. Are they using it somehow? Are they training from it?
Yeah,
where is it going to go?
It's a bit of a wild west for that right now, and so you want to come at it with a skeptical eye. Ask for receipts. Ask them to show you security reports and how they're handling the data. These kind of third-party non-legal tools who don't understand the industry, you're putting yourself and your clients at a tremendous risk to use those unless you have documented, proof that they're handling the data in the right way. And even then, it's that what they may say they're doing, but do they actually understand the industry and know what they are and aren't allowed to do with your data? And so it's something that you should just be ultra skeptical of and ask lots and lots of questions.
So as we're closing up, so we are physically at LEX right now, and we're in the base camp right now at the time of recording, and then there's going to be more of the kickoff tomorrow with the keynote and just sort of what's going on with Filevine. But what are you excited to see and hear?
Yeah, I'm selfishly very excited. We've got our AI keynote tomorrow afternoon. That we get to unveil some really awesome updates to our Chat with Your Case product. We're going to unveil a completely new novel product. We got to do it last year. We launched Depot Copilot at LEX. It was a blast to debut. We're going to have one that I think might not get the same initial oohs and ahs, but the utility in the industry might even be bigger than what we did for Copilot. So we're really excited for that tomorrow afternoon.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. So it's definitely a must see.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by all the different things you have to do to run a law firm? Well, you're not alone. So many law firm owners are in the same boat. That's where Staffy steps in. More than 90 firms just like yours are leaning on their bilingual virtual staff for legal, administrative, marketing, and client-facing work, plus their full HR support. I currently have 11 team members with Staffy across my own firm and Power Strategy Group, and it's been a total game changer. Schedule a free initial consultation at staffy.cc, that's stafi.cc, and use the code RUBY, R-U-B-Y, for $500 off.
And so as we're transitioning to the end, I love to ask my guests several questions, so fun facts. So what is your favorite board game?
Favorite board game? I've got 3 young kids. My oldest is 11 and is board game obsessed. So he loves to play them. So we have a million in our house. Probably with him, there's one called Pandemic, which we actually got during the COVID pandemic. But it's a lot of fun. It's cooperative instead of against one another. So it's a lot of fun and requires a lot of thought and planning. And so it's fun to see, especially see kids, their gears kind of work as the events are unfolding in the game.
I've seen that game and I saw it, and then after the pandemic, I was like, I'm not going to touch this thing with the 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I think we bought it in April of 2020.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, we play a lot of board games with our kids, and it's a way to like connect. But there's a lot of strategy involved in it. Like even though it's not a board game, poker, there's a lot of business and a lot of, I don't know. I like board games. So I learn a lot about a person by what they answer. So what would you consider your superpower?
I have I think a great ability to deeply focus on a problem and obsess about that problem and kind of push everything else away and work on just going after that one thing. And it tends to yield much better results than trying to solve the world, all the problems of the world, or trying to, ultimately multitask all the things away. Like stop, fix one thing, do one thing really, really well, move it off your plate and go on to the next.
I commend you on having that focus ability. I do sometimes when I really, really have to, but that's awesome. That's really good. I'm sure you can solve a lot of problems that way. I like asking this because of the whole Atomic Habits book, but what's a habit that you think has contributed to your success?
Yeah, so for probably the better part of the last 10 years, I've kept the same morning routine, and that's get up usually way too early. 4 or 5 a.m., start working right away, work for 2 or 3 hours, and then go for a run. And that run, it helps me work on the hardest things that I'm going to have to do that day in the morning. And then that run will completely clear my head and usually help unstick a problem that was there for that first 2 or 3 hours. Not every day that it works, but usually when I'm working on something very challenging or trying to work through something, it's a kind of a magic solve for those problems.
I love that. Like, I really added this question like in the last 6 or 8 months or so, and I'm getting a lot of good ideas. Maybe a whole nother book should come from this. But yeah, I do think it's a lot about how you start your day. And what I love about the morning is that nobody's emailing me and nobody's asking me for something, and I can really stay focused, or late at night or on the weekend. But anyway, we're not supposed to work all the time. What is a favorite podcast or book that you would say you should definitely check it out?
I'm a fantasy football nerd.
Okay.
And so that's my kind of fall and winter habit. I love to do it. And so there's a couple of podcasts. There's one by a group called the Fantasy Footballers. They're like family friendly. So even though my kids aren't big into it, they enjoy listening to it in the car or something with me. And it's usually something I'll put on when I run. So it's a regular one in my rotation.
I have to confess, I don't even know what fantasy football is, but I'm sure it's fun. I'm not into that type of thing, but that's good. And it's good that you can share it with your kids because that helps bring it, that bonding time. So how can people find you if they want to connect, ask more questions?
Yeah.
I know you're a busy guy, but just to sort of follow you.
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best way to do it. My name's not too hard to spell out. I think it'll be in the title here. But just Alex McLaughlin on LinkedIn is the best way to find me.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm really excited to hear what's going to come out with the unveiling and all of the news here at LEX. And I'm just excited also about the single pane of glass of just being able to be in one place and stay there, and that we can maximize the impact of our ability and reduce the inefficiencies and errors, but also that whole switch tasking concept that we talked about. Because when I talk to a lot of law firm owners, they might be awesome at how to manage their time, maybe not, but it's also about their team and making sure that they provide the tools and the training to be as efficient as possible, and ultimately how best to provide the best customer service and experience to our clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the problems of email aren't going away anytime soon, so we've just got to figure out better ways to work and solve those problems and keep people happy and producing good work.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Alex, and thanks everyone for listening and watching. This wraps up another episode of Power Up Your Practice, and actually, this I think it's today is actually the birthday of the Power Up Your Practice book. It actually came out a year ago, so we've been celebrating that this month, and so definitely stay tuned for more episodes. Thanks so much for watching.
Thank you for tuning in to Power Up Your Practice. I'm Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. We We love your reviews. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us one and share this podcast with someone else so that they can know what you've been learning on our show. And make sure to check out the Power Up Your Practice book. It's available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. It's packed with 25 chapters of strategies to grow and streamline your firm. And we also have the free Power Hub community on School to keep the conversation going in between the episodes. So make sure to keep powering up your practice, and we'll see you next time.